Okay, so now that we've talked about bloggers are hiring and what that demand looks like, let's actually talk about what the work looks like. What are the jobs that bloggers need? And it really comes down to two areas. One is recreations and the other one is exclusives. Now, a recreation is when you make and photograph an already existing recipe in order to update the photos. And you might be wondering, but why? Why would they do that? And here is why. This is the reason why they have already existing recipes rephotographed. So if you can kind of look at this journey of this recipe, the one on the left predates Pinterest. It's very old. And we all know we've all been around to see just this progression that photos have had over the years. And so they've gone from kind of being photographed in their kitchen at night to, hey, we need to have some really high quality photos. And those high quality photos showcase the recipe really well, that, hey, this is a delicious recipe. But not only does it highlight the recipe, but it also helps the bloggers stand apart as an authority in this field. So a great, well-executed recipe coupled with really bright, colorful photos, high quality photos, really helps to show a blogger's authority. This is very important in the blogging world because more traffic equals more money for them, as we know, as we learned in a previous video. So you can see here that this blogger had this no-bake pumpkin pie recipe rephotographed. And look what happened. Look at the photo, the screen grab all the way on the right, that this recipe, after they had it rephotographed, it had over 18 million people reached. And this was at the time, this was a couple of years ago, that this recipe went crazy viral. So just think about all of the traffic just this single post has generated to the blog. So this was an investment they were willing to make, and they saw a return on their investment. So here's somebody who does recreations. Here's what it kind of looks like. Redonda works with 2 to 3 clients who give her recipes to photograph. Whether these are like the recipe you saw previously, I believe this is one of her recipes actually. And this is her magic right here. And then, so it's an already existing recipe on the blog and photos need to be updated, or maybe it's an already tested recipe and the photos aren't up yet at all. She makes and photographs the recipe, and then she delivers those images to her clients once they're finished, and then they go and put those up on their blog. And so I want to tell you a little bit more about Redonda. Redonda was a medical transcriptionist for over 30 years. She ran her own business, but as times changed, technology shifted, she ended up closing that business and was kind of at a crossroads in 2018. Does she go portrait photography route or does she do food photography? And she jumped all in to being a food photographer. And she's been working with food photography clients since 2018. And this was a leap for her. But just look at the delicious work that she does. She is incredibly talented. So whenever it comes to pricing recreations, anytime you see graphs and charts where we talk about numbers, please know this is not a guarantee of income. These are self-reported by our grads. And just to kind of give you an idea of what our grads are reporting that they are making. And so on average for a recreation, it's about $200 to $250. Now let's talk about exclusives. Exclusives is when you develop and photograph new recipes for bloggers. So if you are the person who loves to create in the kitchen, this very well might be for you. And so there's kind of 2 different approaches we see our grads do. And the first one is I'm going to talk about is Lindsay. And so Lindsay does a one-to-one approach, a one-on-one approach. So she works one-on-one with clients who gives her a recipe to develop and photograph. And she develops and photographs the recipes, and then she delivers the images and recipes to her clients once they are finished. And here's some examples of her work. And Lindsay was a homeschool mom Her daughters are actually, she's homeschooled since they were in second grade, and one of them just graduated. Her oldest just graduated. So she has homeschooled them for years. And she also dabbled in real estate photography, but those jobs were so inconsistent. They were. And she also didn't love them. She didn't love going to people's houses and photographing them. It didn't spark any creative joy in her. But food photography, she has absolutely fallen in love with. And you can tell just by her work. You can tell when a photographer loves their job just by looking at their photos. And man, she is so good at what she does. Now we have another approach to exclusives. This is Jen. Jen takes the one-to-many approach. So she will test and develop new recipes every week. She photographs all of those recipes. She sells both the recipe and the photos directly in an online shop. So she writes the recipe, she photographs them, loads them up, and this allows her to have that one-to-many approach where she's just developing recipes in bulk, basically loading them up in her shop and then emailing her list. Now, Jen was a food blogger. Like, she started out with a food blog because she loved creating and she loved photographing, but she found out very quickly that she didn't love every aspect of being a blogger, but she loved photos and she loved developing the recipes. So when she found out that she could have a career and make money just by doing those things that she loved, she was all in, and she is so good at what she does. You saw some pricing here on, Jen's recipes. Again, not a guarantee of income, but our grads are reporting that they are charging anywhere from $300 to $350 for exclusives. Now, a question that often comes up when we talk about people developing recipes can often feel overwhelming. And I just want to say it's actually not as difficult as you think. And inside of Pretty Focus, we actually teach a proven scientific method to developing recipes. And when it comes to developing recipes, there is copyright law to consider, but then there's also ethics, and we dive into that inside the course. And so when it comes to copyright law, ingredients cannot be copyrighted, but the directions and like the written expression of the recipe can be copywritten. And you might be wondering about recipes such as like a 2-ingredient fudge. Like, what do I do there? Because it's just 2 ingredients. So how do I make that different? And so the recipe that cannot be altered, like that 2-ingredient fudge, needs to be rewritten in original words and have uniquely styled photos. So it's really important that the written word and how you are, any special techniques that you are using are, is unique and different. And then, of course, the photos being styled helps as well. But this is something that we dive into inside of the course, so all of our students are set up for success.